Hello, Brother Sewing and Crafting family. Angela Wolf here, and we are back with our quilt along. I was going to call it a quilt sew along, but I think that's not the right terminology. Quilt along. This is so much fun. So if you haven't participated, don't worry. It's never too late, even if you're watching this a year from now. But hopefully you're following along, and I see everybody rolling in. So yes, we are live on Brother YouTube and Facebook pages. And Wendy Chow is here, and I'm so excited to see what we have next because so far the tutorials have been amazing. Wendy, how are you?
Good. How are you?
I'm so excited for this. So, I was watching some of the comments from last week, and there are a lot of people following along with this tutorial. They absolutely love it.
Oh, I'm glad that everyone's enjoying it so far. It's been so much fun, like coming in every week and then just showing my progress along the way, but also just seeing the work as well, coming through. But yeah, if you guys are joining us live for the first time or you're rewatching it now, yeah, we're doing a 6 week long quilt along. It's a free one, that's co-hosted by me and brother. I'm one of the brand ambassadors there. But yeah, so we're doing a quilt along part of National Quilting Month, and I'll show you the quilts that we are working on. So it's a hopefully you can see it. I'm going to move back a little bit. So I guess it is kind of like a sampler quilt. There's three different blocks. So we are now up to week 3, and we're working on the second quilt block. With the live shows, we're kind of working 1 week ahead. So today I'm going to be demonstrating how to make the third quilt block. And then we're making it for this particular, going into the next week, you'll be making 3 of the same quilt block, but just slightly different with um, the highlighted color that we're going to use. And in case you're wondering, the quilt pattern is available for free from my website. You could also join the email list so you could receive weekly updates or kind of reminders like what tasks we could be working on. With the quilt along, and Angela, I think you've got the link, so you could probably share that with everyone. So don't worry, I won't spam you with emails, but it's just like a reminder. And also, like, in the weekly newsletters, I provide like a link back to the brother social stitching social blog, with just like sort of like tips and tricks, to kind of help you along the way as you're creating these blocks. The blocks are beginner friendly as well as great sort of projects. So like if you want to just work on, like, mastering some certain sort of skills and whatnot. So yes, so today we're gonna be working the third block, and kind of
Oh,
has like a bit of a star shape. But yeah, with this one, the key focus, or like sort of the skill that we're going to try and work on, is the quick corner units. So really one of my favorite ways in piecing, especially with sort of like getting those triangles in. So without further ado, let's get to it.
I
So
love this. And by the way, I see that Brother Social, thank you, dropped in her newsletter on the Facebook side, and I'll be sure I do it on the YouTube side. And also, just to remind you all that this is in the Brother Live show on YouTube. The fastest and easiest way to watch the replays is when this is over. Just go to Brother Sew's YouTube channel and click on live, and you can go back a couple episodes and start at the beginning if you like. So, all right, Wendy, I'll let you take
all
it away.
right, thank you. All right, so over to the camera with my desk. So this is the PDF files of the quilt pattern, which is a PDF file. So this is what you get. So this is like how the whole quilt looks like. So for today's task, we're going to be working on creating the third block, which is this one. Um, so with the third block, which is called Block C, very creative name, it is we're focusing on page 10 and then all the way down to page 13. So it's a little bit longer, but there's just a little few more steps involved. So like I said, we're going to be focusing on quick corner units. So let's start on page 10, step 1, and we're going to be marking the some of the rectangles and squares. So this one, I'll need B6 squares as well as A7 squares. So throughout the quilt pattern as well, you notice that the squares and rectangles, the pieces that you've cut out, they're labeled as like a letter and a number, and you'll find all those details in the cutting directions on page 3 and page 4, and then they're like the bolded letters. And there's more like sort of instructions as to like what these, I guess, like what BA, BC, BB, etc. Like there's instructions on how to read these labels. But anyway, so let me go back to page 10. A lot of skipping around. Sorry if there's motion sickness as I'm scrolling through this page. So yeah, let's get to step 1. I'm going to pick up the B6 and A7 rectangles. So B6 is these squares, and then A6, no, A7. And I have these labels as well. You can print them out. They're on page 18 of the quilt pattern. If you don't have a printer, you could always draw it out on a piece of scrap paper for those labels. And yeah, it's just easier to label and keep them put together or pinned together as you're going through. All right, so the first half of step 1, we're going to be marking the wrong side of all B6 squares diagonally. So I've got my fabric pen. Move this on the side. And what I like to do is I kind of like to flip these, a few of them at a time, and then put up kind of like a diagonal sort of diamond orientation. Grab my ruler and my fabric pen, and then mark these. When I mark these diagonal guidelines, make sure it's done on the wrong side of the fabric. And then the ruler is just slightly offset from the center, just so that when you do mark the points from one end to the other, it's actually dead set in the middle. So I'm going to keep doing that and that. And when I mark these squares, like I said, I like to kind of lay out a whole bunch of them. And then each time as I'm marking, I'm like sliding my ruler and marking it instead of actually like picking up one piece at a time and then lifting up my ruler one at a time and then marking it one at a time. It just saves more time when I just slide it like this. See daisies. So this is one of my quick, fast tips when it comes to marking guidelines.
That's a great tip, Wendy, because you're right. You
Yeah,
pick up each one and it takes additional time.
exactly. It's just time and effort. So, all right. So I've got my A7 rectangles. I'm going to divide. So it's kind of hard to tell with this fabric, but this is just going to click on this so you can focus on it. The lighting's a bit difficult to see, but there's little crosses and stuff. So that is the right side of the fabric. I'm just gonna divide them up into 2 piles and then flip them all the same direction. And you'll see why I'll divide them up into 2 piles. So here we go. And I'll show you quickly on the pattern as well. Here we go. All right, so it says in the pattern that you need to mark a diagonal guideline from this corner, and then it's not completely like a 45-degree angle, and it's not completely to that corner, if that makes sense. So you have to, what I like to do is just divide it into 2 piles because there's like 2 different sort of orientations of where the guideline is going to be marked. I hope that makes sense, but you'll see more clearly in this diagram here anyway. So this is what I'm going to be doing. So I've split them into 2 piles. And I'm going to flip it over because I have it currently right sides facing up. So I'm going to flip it over. And it says to mark a 2.5-inch guide from the left edge of this. And we're going to do that on with this pile with the right edge, 2.5 inches from there. So, but now I'm just going to do the left side first. So I do this. Again, I'm not lifting up the ruler, and then I'm just doing it all in the one go like this, and I'll just do it 2 at a time. So that's that. So it looks like this. Hopefully you can kind of see it. So I've marked 2.5 inches from here and then drew a diagonal guideline from one corner to the other. this is kind of slightly off. The way that I stored the fabric here wasn't so great, so it's kind of slightly off. Here we go. Okay, that's better. All right, now I'm going to do that on these two as well. So yeah, that's like a trick when it comes to doing the second half of step one. It's just dividing it up into two piles and then having all the fabrics flipped to the same sort of side. So then wrong side is facing up in this instance, and then we mark those guidelines. All right, so now we've done this left side, like marking 2.5 inch from the left side of the left edge of this. I'm going to do 2.5 inches from the right side or the right edge. So I'll mark 2.5 inches and then mark that diagonal guideline. And I'm just going to zoom in, but you'll see the difference between the two. You see how that the diagonal guidelines are the opposite. So I'm going to do the rest for these remaining rectangles. So 2.5 from the right edge, 2.5 from the right edge. Oh, it's fire truck. I don't know if you guys can hear it, but I live around the corner of a firehouse. For
I
the
was thinking,
last,
I think I hear it.
yeah. So for the last two, I think it's the last two shows. We were very fortunate not to have heard the fire trucks, but this time around we have the fire trucks. Okay.
That's okay. It's a little entertaining. We've got construction going around next to me. So between the both, maybe they'll have a nice concert going, right, Wendy?
Yeah, for sure. All right, so I've done the remaining rectangles. So we've done step one now. Let me just go back to the iPad and see where we're up to now. So we've done that. And then now we're going to pick up rectangle E1, which is these ones here. And I'm going to unclip this. And then what we'll do is it will pick up the rectangle with where we marked the right edge, the 2.5 inch from the right edge. And if you're not sure, you can always just follow the diagram here. So the marked guideline is going that way and it's right sides together. So I'd pin it like this.
Wendy, I'll tell you, your directions are so amazing. And also, your illustrations are so easy to follow.
Oh, great. Thanks. Yeah, I find that, and same with me. I'm more of a visual learner, so I find that I have a tendency to not read the written instructions, and I kind of just jump in and just go ahead with sewing based on the diagrams. So, but yeah, I try to make it as clear as possible. Because I'm actually like I just want to imagine like as a reader, like I just want to imagine that like I'm there with them, helping them out and um, along the way in constructing this without actually having to be there in person. If that makes sense. But you guys are very fortunate. You get to see me doing this live.
We get to have both.
Yeah. That's right. So I've done this, I've pinned these. So I'm actually going to sew on this blue guide that we just marked. Hopefully you can see that. So I'm going to be sewing on that. And then when we're done with that, we're just going to trim a 1/4 inch seam allowance just outside of that. So I am going to move my sewing machine for the time being while that I'm just going to set it up. So I'll move it closer.
All right, while she moves, I will take it out so you don't get seasick. But I see everybody in here. Esther says your directions are phenomenal as well. I would agree.
Oh,
So,
thanks.
also, if you're participating in this sew along, even if you just have done one block or sewn one block, I should say, be sure to post it on social media and use hashtag Brother Sews. They love to see what you're working on, and so do I. And Wendy's going to love it too because this is
Yeah,
really.
I always like seeing, oh, I'm ready as well. I always like seeing the other sort of colors people use as well and their choice of fabrics. It's always exciting. Um, all right, so I'm just gonna sew on this blue dot line, blue marked line. Yeah, but it's always exciting to see other people's interpretation of your pattern. I have seen someone and they're just creating the third block that we're working on today, just over and over again. She said that she's going to make that into a quilt for their neighbor. And I'm just chain piecing this. So that's just like feeding like one set of these thick corner units, one after the other. So I'll just quickly play. So I've just sewn on that blue line there. That's the one where I kind of messed up and didn't draw that line properly, but I'm just gonna undo this. Aren't you guys lucky? Today's all like sirens. Really good start
I just
to
I love the way that you so quickly just cut those. That's perfect.
Yes. It's a lot. It's pretty therapeutic. I feel like the repetitiveness in quilting is therapeutic. All right. So then now I'm going to grab this. And this is one of my favorite sort of little tricks. I'm just going to wait for the camera to kind of focus on it. Ah, okay. Here we go. All right. So I've got these. So we just did this, and then now I'm going to cut the 1/4 inch seam allowance, which is just outside of like this. So what I like to do is I rotate these and then line up the seam with one of just the guides that's here. So I'm just going to use one of these vertical guides, and so just like that. And I'm going to stack one on top of the each other. So I use the seam from the previous unit and then match it up with that, and then also match it with that same vertical guide on the cutting mat. So what I'm going to be doing is trimming seam allowances for 4 of these units at the same time. And be sure to have a sharp rotary cutter to do this, because a sharp rotary cutter, you can do this seamlessly, unintended, seamlessly in just one swoop or one sort of cut. So I'm going to grab this. I'm hoping my rotary cutter is sharp because I feel like I haven't really done that recently. But anyway, I'm going to measure a 1/4 inch seam allowance from that blue or that blue guide. Wait, and then apply a lot of pressure. I'm sorry if I'm going to cover the screen a little bit. All right, maybe not. And then I'm just going to like cut it all in one hit. All right, and then remove that. And I've just trimmed seam allowances for 4 units. So instead of doing it one at a time, I've done it all in one go. And then now I'm just going to get my iron. I've got to turn it on for this, and I'm just going to press the seams. So we'll get my, oh, see, the wool pressing mat is right underneath my iron. And then I'm just going to press this. And when you press it, it opens up like this. So that's 1/2 of those quick corner units. So yes, that's another speedy trick that I really like when it comes to making quick corner units. And you could do this with like the stitch and flip method with making flying geese units as well. So we've done that. Let me quickly turn this off. All right, so now do you remember, whoops, my headphones fell out. Ah. Okay, so now do you remember these are the rectangles that we marked the guideline? So they're going to go on the right side of this. So I'm going to match this up here, making sure that the guide is going that way. Hopefully I'll just bring it back to the camera so you can kind of see it. There you go. So I'm going to pin this, and we're going to do basically the same thing that we did earlier. Grab my pins. We talked about this last week for
I was just thinking that we did,
what?
and we had some good laughs. What is in your pin bowl?
Yeah, pin bowl, pin box, whatever you use to store your pins. No judgment here. I am like shamelessly just putting it out here. So I'm sure, and if this is me, I'm sure there's other people out there that have something similar to mine.
I think we had everything from Wendy. We had jewelry, we had earrings, we had pens, we had just about everything. And there's new people watching today, so what ends up in your pin bowl, especially when it's magnetic,
Yeah,
you don't want there.
like this is like I can't find this seam ripper anymore, but it's a seam ripper cover. This is bottom of like my breast pump thing. I think this is from the bottom of like one of my sewing machines. Like I have all sorts of things in here. Safety pins for like doing the, threading through the elastic for like tubing. So all sorts of things. I have
Do you know what else though? When
clips.
while you're pinning this, I was thinking, I wonder how many people do this quilting when you have your letters that you printed. Some people who have an embroidery machine, it would be so easy to embroider those letters and just have them
Oh,
in little cards, either on cotton or with vinyl. It would be such an easy and fun thing to do.
oh my
Just an
God,
idea.
you just gave me an idea.
Okay, there you
You
go.
Thank you. I mean, I'm pretty new to embroidery. I'm still like kind of working on it, but I'm
Glenda.
definitely gonna be doing that. I'm okay, so this is using a terrible example, but this with this one, I'm just gonna terrible example because I drew like the center guide like several times. But anyway, I'm gonna be stitching on this blue guide for this next step, like what we did before. But yes, Angela, that is such a great idea. I definitely want to do that now. Like
That will be
fabric
one of
labels.
we'll have to do like our next one of our tutorials after the sew on
Yeah.
how to
Yeah.
quickly make letters using your embroidery machine.
Yeah. How does everyone feel about that? How does like I mean our audience like, would you want to see that? Tell us in the comments. Is this going to be a future episode?
Wendy, by the way, are you someone's asking what stitch
Mm.
you're just using a straight stitch. What stitch length are you using right now?
I'm just using the straight stitch and I'm just using 2.5 mm on the length. And that was just like the default for when I turn on my sewing machine. You can also
Great.
go as down to 2.0. Um, but yeah, I would kind of stick to either one of those lengths when you are piecing. And then if you're foundation paper piecing, which is a different piecing method when it comes to quilting, and you're using paper as the foundation, um, to just create like really small piecing or just like weird angles, um, then I would suggest anywhere between 1.0 to 1.2, maybe 5, but you kind of want to go small with that to create sort of like a perforation so you can tear the paper away when you're done piecing easily, which I love foundation paper piecing. And we've done it before on this show quite a while ago. So maybe you could kind of have a little look around on YouTube, Brothers YouTube channel for the replay for that. Anyway, so I've just stitched that and that and that, and I'm just going to do that really quick trick and then cut away from there. Cut a 1/4 inch seam allowance or trim that. So to show you how that works again, what I'm going to do is line up this seam with just any of the vertical guides on your cutting mat. So I'm going to use this number 4 here. And then as I'm laying these next units on top, I use the stitch from the previous unit as a guide, and then also the marked, the vertical marked guide like this, to line it up. This one's a little tricky, but I'm going to use the seam. So just follow the seam as the guide when you're doing this, because that's more accurate compared with following the blue guide. Because sometimes as you're like sewing, um, your eye does not always match up with the actual marked guide. That makes sense. So it's more accurate to follow the seam. that you sewed. But anyway, I've just trimmed the 1/4 inch seam allowance on all 4 of these in one swoop, which saves a ton of time. So I hope you could also apply that to, or give that a go anyway, when you are working on your project or any other project that has quick corner units or the stitch and flip method when it comes to making flying geese. But this is how it looks like. It kind of looks like a flying geese, but with like an extra sort of overhang on the corners. So I'm just going to quickly press this. And then once I'm done, I'm going to go back to the iPad and just show you where we're up to with the steps. We've done 4 of these. All right. Okay, and then let me grab the iPad. Here we go. All right, so we've just done this. We are now moving on to, so we've done a whole bunch of steps out. We're moving on to step 6. We're going to get A2 rectangles and we're going to stitch it on the bottom half of these quick corner units that we just created. So the bottom half of that. So let me grab those pieces. So it's A2 rectangles. Got my handy dandy clip here. All right, and then so it's like this. I'm going to audition it just to make sure that I've got it the right orientation. I think last week I made an accident and didn't sew it in the right orientation because I was trying to
Oh,
cut
you know what?
corners.
Nobody would have ever remembered you had to pull out the
Yeah,
seam ripper.
I was just trying to cut corners, and that's what I get for cutting corners. And pun intended again, because it's quick corner units today. So I'm gonna put right sides together and then stitch these. So I'm gonna quickly move my sewing machine back, and I'm going to sew a 1/4 inch seam allowance from here. And one of the really cool things on my sewing machine, which is the Brother BQ3100, it's part of the Quilt Club series, but there's a function where you can, I think on the menu of all the different decorative stitches, there's one that's called a piecing stitch right. And you could just hit that button and without actually really thinking about it, because it's done all that hard work for you, you'd find the seam allowance. All right. The 1/4 inch seam allowance without actually having to guess. Right, so let me quickly sew this together. Do it on the other side. And do it on the other side. And do this small on the other side. Oops. Oh yes, and I'm being lazy and I'm not pinning these in place, but do suggest doing that if you if you're not feeling confident or comfortable. But I'm I'm really lazy and a lot of the times I don't pin. But yeah, anyway, so I'm gonna remove these and then I'm gonna open it up and then you'll see how it looks like. So it looks like this when you have it opened. So I'm just gonna quickly give this a press.
That's
And
beautiful.
oh yeah, thanks. So it's actually, and I'll show the completed block, but this is that part that we're doing. And then we're gonna add these corner, these white corners in the next step. So let me press this quickly. So you can kind of see it taking shape. try to speed through this as quickly as I can because I see we're roughly halfway through. My sewing machine says like 12:28 p.m. I'm on Eastern Standard in the US. Um, but yeah, I have it like a little bit faster than what the actual time is. So then it's a reminder for me to be like, hey, you got some adulting to do, and you need to like do clean it. You got to clean the apartment. You got to cook. Some got to do something. Anyway, so I've just done this, and then now I'm just gonna place one of these marked like squares. Here you go. You can see that diagonal. And I'm gonna put it on top of here, pin it like this, and then I'm gonna stitch on that blue guide. And then and it's basically the same thing that we've been doing. Once I stitch on that blue guide, we're gonna then trim a 1/4 inch seam allowance. So then when we flip it open, it or press it, it'll look like this. So I'm going to pin these ones. I'm not going to be lazy and cheat. So bringing back my shamelessly terrible, like this is terrible, like one of my pins. I really need to get new pins. But yes, my pin bowl. All right, so I'm going to do that. Do this other one. Right, so this one. And I've got this one as well. Okay, and so I'm going to stitch on that blue guide that we marked. So hopefully you can see that. So I'm going to move my machine back. You'll find that there's these other remaining ones. You're not going to use it all in the one go because once we've done this half of the quick corner unit, we're going to do it on the other half of this. But we have to do this step first before we could sew the other squares. Let's move this back. Scooch it back.
So,
Angela,
Wendy,
do you? Oh, yes, go ahead.
for anyone who maybe hasn't watched the last couple of episodes, what machine, tell them what machine you're on because you always use this for quilting and it's so quiet and has beautiful
Oh,
stitches.
yeah. It's the BQ3100. It's like my workhorse machine. Like I use it for like all my piecing, all my quilting. So yeah, I've been using this for I can't even remember, maybe the last 3 years or so, but it has not failed me at all, and I really love it. And you'd be surprised, my baby's actually sleeping next door right now. Like every time we do these live shows, he's always napping next door, and it doesn't wake him up. So and you know what? Honestly, he probably is so used to the sound of the sewing machine because while I was pregnant, I'm always like sewing. So it's probably
Hey,
white
hey,
noise for
I see a
him.
whole new business for you, Wendy. You know those, like you watch the
Uh,
fireplace on TV that makes people like relax? Wendy, you could have
Yes.
a
Oh,
sewing.
yeah. Sewing one. Yeah, I'm sure people would really enjoy that. All right, so I'm going to stitch on this blue line. What I've done, and I quickly did it as well, as we're like I was moving my machine and whatnot. So I actually switched to the piecing stitch middle, which essentially moves from the the piecing stitch, which is like a 1/4 inch seam allowance from the right edge of the presser foot. It moved the needle position to the center, so it's so quick and easy to just move the needle position from left to right with this machine for quilting, which is major. Yeah, highly recommend it if you're looking or in the market for a quilting machine or just something for like for garment making as well, or just like that does everything. I really like this machine. It's really, really not failed me at all. All right, so just look at those. And then this one. Speaking of sewing machines, Angela, does your sewing machine have a name? It sounds random, but
Um,
people name their sewing machines.
I do name mine. But I'm testing different machines for brothers, so I can't remember the name of all of them, but it's usually I have one named Shirley after my grandmother. I have one Angela's Fashionista. That's the new Avenir because it does so many
Ooh,
cool fashionista things. You know what? Let's ask everyone in the chat, what is the name of your sewing machine?
I want to know. Yes, I want to know. I am so curious if people have named their machine. All right, so I'm just gonna do the same thing where I like lay, um, I'm just gonna line this up and then I'm just gonna cut the seam allowance in one swoop. I may have chosen the wrong guide because I've noticed that there's all this text here, so I'm gonna just scooch it down a little bit to the left so the guide continues. So what's your favorite thing about your Avenir, Angela? What's
You
some cool
know,
features that we should know about?
I know. I don't know I don't know which one would technically be my exact favorite, but the buttonhole feature with the laser placement by far, since I love sewing garments, is really one of the
Ooh,
other ones. Yeah, I
this
love it.
laser placement thing sounds really cool.
It is. And you can line up buttonholes without using chalk. It's fantastic.
That's so good. And sometimes the chalk kind of disappears as you're like moving the fabric throughout the like as you're working on it. So that laser thing sounds very handy. All right, so I've just done this and I'm just going to press it. So that's one half of that piece. So let's quickly do that. All right, I feel like I need to be working faster. All right, so I got this, and then I'm going to do the same thing on the other side. All right, so I'm going to pin these in place. So just be mindful of the orientation of the diagonal guideline, and we're just going to match it up here. There you go. And let me get my crazy pin box back into the screen. I feel like speaking of names for machines, I'm like, maybe I should give my crazy pin box a name or something. It's got a lot of airtime, all right? So it probably deserves a name.
I'm looking at your pin box, and sometimes when we're looking at studios on the live, it's like, oh, what do I spot over there? I see colors of thread. I see this. I'm looking at your pin box, going, I see a lot of non-pin items.
Yeah, that and a lot of pins that are bent that requires some throwing out. So probably need to spring clean this pin box. Maybe if you guys are lucky and you tune in next week, you might have a clean pin box. You guys might be my motivation. Anyway, so I'm going to sew on this guide. I'm also going to, while we're doing this, I'm going to just sort of bounce around with the steps as well, just to speed things up. So let me just bring this back to the screen and I'll show you which step I'm going to bounce to. So we've done all this. So we're up to step 9 now in this. So I'm going to also just skip to step 1 in the block assembly, which is on page 13, and I'm going to stitch the A8 of, oh my gosh, A8 and C4 squares together to make C1. So I'm going to do the first half of that in this sewing part here. All right, so I've got these two, and I'm going to unclip these, add it to my crazy pin box, make it even more crazy there. So I'm just going to audition this. I'm going to stitch these together. So right sides together. Alrighty. I've got this set to go. I'll stitch this one first since we're still kind of working on that. All right, and my needle position is in the center as well, so that makes it easy, but all right, so I'm gonna lower this and start sewing. Bump a little bit. Okay, got it. Got it. this one. So how many of you are that's watching now are quilters? I'm just kind of curious.
What did you ask, Wendy?
Oh, how many that are watching now are quilters or have
That's a
tried
good
quilting
question.
before? I'm kind of
By the way, I'm
curious.
sitting here enjoying all the names that everybody's dropping in for the names of their
Oh,
machines.
yes, I would love to know. Please tell me. I want to know.
All right, we have somebody named theirs the Beast.
The
We've
best.
got Good Times. I love that name.
Oh, that is fun.
Oh, Glenna named hers Pandora.
Ooh.
Lorraine named hers Beulah May after her mother. Oh, there's so many fun ones. Oh, Lisa said she's a quilter.
Oh, hello.
Clovis hasn't named her machines. Clovis, you should name one of your machines after Dennis because he's always around sewing with you, and just for being able to call him on the live shows. That's what you need to call it. Oh, everybody's saying, yeah, so much fun. There's a lot of quilters in the house, and you know what? I'm not a quilter, but I'm going to say yes now because you've taught me so much on this sew along.
Yeah. Well, I'm glad. I'm telling you, Angela, maybe by the end of this year, you'd be a quilt like a convert, and you would have conquered your first quilt.
I'm
Right.
going to. It is on my goal because I want to make some sleeves
Yeah.
out of some of these different quilt blocks that you've shown. I just think it'd make a really cute outfit.
Oh, yes. It would be really cool. I actually made a dress with like sawtooth star blocks. And what I did was I would piece them like a quarter inch like this, and then I'll get the serger and then press it. So there's like an additional step, but I pieced every single little individual piece for that dress that with all the quilt blocks on it. Might show you that if we have time at the end. But anyway, so I've just pieced these. I'm going to quickly press these. And this is part of step one for Blee C. And I believe that was on page 13 off the top of my head. Oh, and then, so that's that. Like I said, I'll be jumping around. And then I'm going to grab my cutting mat, my handy dandy cutting mat, and then remove all these pins. And then we're going to trim the seam allowance on this. So I'm going to use the 5-inch guide here. And then do the same thing. There we go. It's my secret trick when I am in a hurry. And here we go. So I'm going to just cut on that.
This is my
Ta-da!
favorite. When you're cutting like this is such a wow factor as far as making this so fast and easy.
Yeah, sometimes I do wish like I'm able to include that in the quilt pattern, but there's just not enough. Well, there's just not enough room. But also, find that what was it? Yeah, I lost my track. Yeah, it's just easier to show it in person or on a video or a live. So I've done these blocks, which is kind of these. So I'm going to bring this back here, just kind of give you a visual. So we've done this. Oops, so let me just move it. So we've just done these rectangles here, and then I'm like halfway through doing this little bit. So what I'm going to do with these ones, I'm going to sew rectangle A6 to the right of them. So I'm going to stitch it like this to make up those corners. It's kind of like a mini log cabin block, but yeah. So like a start of a mini, like a log cabin block. But anyway, so I'm going to stitch these together. And then, so once we've done all these little corners, we can then stitch this whole thing together. So it's coming together actually pretty quickly. And I think I can do it within the time limit too. So maybe you get to see that quilt dress that I was talking about. And I wore it at QuiltCon this year at Phoenix. So yeah. So I'm going to move this forward.
Hey, Wendy. Rose
Yes.
wants to know, what do you do with the pieces you cut off? You keep them, you
Um,
throw them out.
oh yes, I forgot to show that. There's a secret trick which I will tell you, which will come out in the upcoming blog. But basically, if you could kind of see it. So you have all this like wastage here. What you could do, so before you trim it, you could draw another diagonal guideline that's like 1/2 inch from here, and then you sew 1/4 inch from that diagonal guideline. Let me just draw it in as an imaginary thing. Yeah. Oops. Oops. Okay, there goes the lid. I will pick that up later. But yes,
Did it end
this
up in the?
diagonal guide. No, it did not end up in the pin box. No. um, but yeah, so I draw like a diagonal guideline that it's like a 1/2 inch from the original guide that's in the middle. And then what you do is you rotate this, and then actually no, you don't. Rotate, don't worry about that. You go back here, and then you sew 1/4 inch from this. You line this marked diagonal guideline with this right edge of the presser foot, and then what you no, actually no, you don't. Sorry, no. Here we go. You sew on this marked guide here, and then when you're done with that, then you cut in the middle of this between these two parallel what's it call it, marked guidelines, and then you split it up, and then this ends up being like a half square triangle like this. So that's what you can do with the cutoff pieces. But I've made it really tricky, and I should have shown this to you. But that is in my blog for next week, for week four's blog post on the Brother Stitching Social. Yeah. So that's what I do. Well,
Perfect.
no, I
And
didn't do it here, but that's what you could do. And then you'd
that's
have a
what
whole
you
bunch
could
of
do.
like, yeah, that's what you could do. And you would have like a whole bunch of like, half square triangles in your half square triangle stash. And then you could like stitch them all up together at the end or something, or just kind of save it all up and then use it for a different project. So yeah. And you could do that with the quick corner units that you did earlier on with the purple and the green in this example. So yeah. So yes, I should have shown that to you guys. I'm so sorry. Should have demonstrated it. Okay, so I'm almost done.
The good news
Last
is Wendy's going
bit.
to be on for quite a few more Thursdays, so I'm sure she can add it to one of the last ones as a
Yeah,
refresher.
yeah, we could totally do that. Gonna have a lot of me over the next few weeks. I hope you're not sick of me. I hope
We
you're not
would
sick of
never
me.
be sick of you, Wendy, and I love all these
Oh,
projects and everything that's coming up. So, and I think you're going to see everybody. There's quite a few quilters here, and now you have some new quilters. Lorraine says, "I'm not a quilter, but I think I want to be now."
yeah, you should. It's so much fun. It's so therapeutic. All right, so I've just did that stitch, and then I'm just gonna fold this open. So those make up the corners of our block. All right, so we're so close. We're almost done making our third and final quilt block for this quilt along. Um, but that will officially come up as next week's task. All right, so I've got this, and then now let's see. I gotta make sure. Okay, so it looks like this. I'm gonna audition it now. All right, so it looks like this. It's kind of like a star with these white corners or white triangles like this. And then I'll grab the center square. So this is how your block will end up looking like. So I'm going to fold this right sides together, right sides together, right sides together. And I'm going to move these aside for the time being. And then what I'm going to do is stitch a 1/4 inch seam allowance from this right edge here. So we're getting very close. I hope that I don't make any mistakes. The machine is going to behave because I feel like the last two times it's done something to me where I've like my bobbin has come to an end. And then I think last time I accidentally stitched one of the pieces the wrong way around and I had to get the seam ripper out. So I'm sewing 1/4 inch seam allowance from here. And then I've got this one here.
So, hey, Wendy,
Mm.
Rose says that she's done that before with those leftover triangles. She wants to know what you do with them. Like, do you make another quilt or do you put them
Uh,
as stuffing in a bag? What should we do with this?
oh, I mean, you could make a coaster out of it. I honestly have not done
Yeah,
anything with the triangles that I've done, but coasters are always good. Um, because like a lot of the times these half square triangles that are left over are pretty small. So at least if you do it as a coaster, it's like pretty functional.
yeah, that's a good idea.
Yeah.
All right, Carol
That
has a couple questions for you while you're sewing.
yeah.
Carol wants to know what thread weight are you using? Anything special, or is it cotton, polyester?
I just use a 50 weight cotton.
50 weight cotton.
Um,
Perfect. And the
yeah.
stitch length, Carol, we already asked her that is a 2.5 right now.
hmm Or you could, if you wanted to, you could do two as well. That also works. So it really is either one of those is a safe option. Okay, so I'm just going to quickly do this and then do so just kind of show you like that. And I'm going to just go audition my pieces again. So it'll be like this, and this. So now I've got to stitch these bits. So I'm going to put that right sides together, right sides together this way, and then right sides together. Pile them up like this, and then stitch a 1/4 inch seam allowance from the right side. Okay.
That machine is so quiet. I mean, your
Oh
camera's
yeah.
right there. We should be hearing something. Nope.
No, and I'm not doing any like audio enhancers or anything. Like this is it. This is what it normally is.
Oh,
There we
that's a
go.
good idea. Don said, what about um, a doll quilt? That's a good idea. A
Oh,
really
that would
small
be
doll.
so cute.
Yeah. Hey,
That would be
Amanda. Nice
very
to see
cute.
you today in here. Thank you for the laugh yesterday. I posted something really funny on Facebook and she had a really cute comment.
All right.
Rose says she likes
So
the doll quilt. I love that.
that's a good idea.
So,
All
so cute.
right. So got this. Just gonna use that thread trimmer. Is it a thread trimmer? Is that the technical term? Thread trimmer on the side. And then now I'm gonna just press these in place. So it's
Yeah.
like this. There we go. All right. So I'm gonna press these, and yeah, I think we're rolling pretty good on time. I think I can do this within 6 minutes.
I love the colors. Hey, Darlene, we are on number part 3 of the quilt along. So if you got her newsletter from the last few weeks, this is part 3. And then she will also be on next Thursday with part 4, and then a few more surprises after that. So we're going to get a lot of
Woo.
Wendy. A lot of fun.
Yeah, I hope you're not sick of me yet.
No way, Jose. And Darlene, if you, I think you've been here for the last couple, but I can't remember offhand. So if I made mistake, sorry. Um, it's a free pattern for the quilt, and you can download it on her site and sign up for her newsletter. So don't forget about that.
Yeah, so if you sign up for the newsletter, throughout the filter long period, I'll send you like weekly updates to like just kind of keep you on task. If I mean, you could work at your own pace, but it's just really reminders of like, okay, well, this is what we're working on this week and whatnot. For the Facebook lives, we're just kind of like working 1 week ahead of what everyone else or what the actual filter long is, if that makes sense. Anyway, so I'm gonna stitch these together. to complete the block. So, oh yeah, just so you know, I'm going to be stitching 2 seams there and here, and then that completes the block. So I'm going to pin this one because it's the last bit. So pin this. Get my
Oh, there you
here we
go,
go,
darling.
my
The pin.
my
I
ugly pin
spy
blocks.
Wendy, you need some of those embroidered letters because they would look so fabulous in there. We need to embroider them. Maybe
Yeah.
I have an idea. All those little extra quilt squares that we have, put a nice piece of stabilizer on the back and embroider
Oh
on those.
yes. Yeah,
Go.
we could definitely do that. That would be fun.
Super
There we
fun.
go.
And yes, everyone, we are live. We're on Brother Sews and Brother YouTube channel today. Drop your comments and questions below.
I'm actually going to pin the other side as well. So we can
Joyce has a
not
question
have
for
to
you.
worry about that. Yeah.
She has a question about nesting your seams.
Oh
I think
yes,
she may
I didn't.
she
Yeah,
has
you could
difficulty
probably
with that.
see it right now. I did not, I did not do it properly on this one. I should have checked when before I pressed. But yes, I do nest my seams. And the reason why I'm pinning right now is because I forgot to nest my seams. I pressed it the wrong way. So nesting means so it goes, you press it one way this way and then the opposite direction with this other one. So it nests in like that. If you could kind of, I'm just gonna wait for my camera to be able to focus on this. Like it just kind of like clicks in together like that. But yeah, I kind of messed up a little bit when I pressed this. So I'm not nesting it. I should have done it. But yeah, nesting it would ensure that the seams sit nice and flat. So that is a great question. You caught me out on that. I was hoping that no one was going to catch me out on that. But yeah, normally I would do that. Anyway, so I'm going to sew a 1/4 inch seam allowance from here and here. And and then I'll open it up and then we'll have a whole entire quilt block done.
Wow, in no time at all.
Yeah, this took just under an hour. So, oh, we'll see. Technically, I'm still working on it, but it's roughly an hour.
Let's see. Let's see
And the
how
thing is
the
that the oh yeah, my machine behaves.
yeah. So
So it
do we
likes to
have
embarrass
how's the
me.
bobbin looking? How
The bobbin is oh, it's all right. It's I would say like about a quarter of a tank.
that's perfect. We can make it with a 1/4 of a tank. We'll remind you before
Yeah,
next
yeah,
week. Fill it because
yeah,
by the
yeah,
time you fill all week.
yeah. Well, I actually have I have a few bobbins winded up just in case. So
Smart,
and back up.
smart.
So just in case anything happens.
And
All right,
while you're
here we go.
finishing this last part up, I'm going to put up all of our websites so you all can be sure to check that out. So you've got Wendy's website, Brother's website, my website. If you're looking for the new schedule, it's all up there. Look at this. Looks so good,
All
Wendy.
right, get ready. Hello, and all I gotta do is press. So yeah, I'll change my camera angle so you can see it like this. So you can see the, oh wait, as in,
Oh,
yeah,
look at
here we go.
that.
There you go. And I just gotta press it, the 2 seams, but that's how it looks like. So that will be your third block in the quilt. And the quilt is actually a really nice story size, which I think it's perfect for like going into the spring and like wanting to refresh your home decor with just like, it's like bright, it's like pretty. Yeah.
It's so
So
beautiful. So Lisa has a quick question for you. Let me see what this was here.
yeah.
Hold tight. Do you spin your centers?
No, I don't, but I have seen people do that, and you should Google that. And there are some really beautiful like spun centers. But yeah, no, I a lot of the times I'm kind of rushing into like the next project. I want to just get going, so yeah, I try to like, find any shortcut or any speedy tricks to get me going so I'm on to my next project. So, which I hope you picked up some good or some handy tips to help speed this whole process up along the way as well. So,
I
yeah.
I myself have picked up some tips here because when I remember a project I was working on a couple years ago, and it kind of pushed me away from quilting because it took forever to cut all those little pieces.
Mm,
But you have given so many good tips over the last few weeks of cutting them all at the same time, marking them, sewing them, just keeping it a process going instead of one at a time, which for me was like watching grass grow. So this is
yeah.
so much better, so much better. And I
Yeah.
think I've even watched the comments in here. Everyone's like, what a great tip. So you've given so
Yeah.
many. So anybody who
Yeah.
just launched, want to go back and watch the previous episodes because all of these have been fantastic. So we love
Yeah.
it. Delia wants to do this project for sure.
Yes, you should. And the great thing, it's free. You could go back and watch the previous episodes as well. So if you're not really sure about a particular step or anything, you could always go back and look at these lives and watch it happen and unfold. So yeah, and maybe you could pick up some really good tips along the way.
This is so exciting. So, all
Yeah.
right, let me give you the dates for next week. Next week, let's see, we've got Kathy Gandy on Tuesday with a fabulous project for you. She's going to be doing the scan cut with 3D. That's going to be really cool. And then Wendy,
Ooh.
you're back with us on Thursday. What are you showing next week? Give us a little hint.
Yeah, so next week we're gonna go, like I said, we're working 1 week ahead with the live shows relative to the quarter long schedule. So with that, we're talking about sashing and cornerstones and borders. So if you're not sure,
Oh,
sashing is these long rectangular strips. Um, that kind of frame the quilt block, and then these little cornerstones, which are like at the intersections of each of those sashing strips. So the real focus is on that. And I'm going to share like a little trick that you might want to put in your back pocket for a future project. And I think it'd be really cute. So I'm kind of actually working on that sample right now as we speak. So
oh,
yeah, I'm
this is
excited.
gonna be fun. I can't wait. Everybody's saying they love it. They love all the ticks, tips and tricks.
I
Not
know.
ticks.
Well, it
No
is
ticks.
no ticks, no ticks. I know it's like tick season's like kind of coming up, but yeah, no, not today.
No ticks. Let's leave those out today. Well,
No.
Wendy, thank you. This has been such a fun show. And everyone, thanks for joining us. If it wasn't for you, we wouldn't
Yeah.
have a show. So we so appreciate you showing up and hanging out with us. And until next time, I'm going to say happy sewing. And Wendy, until next time, happy sewing to you too.
Same to you. Bye.
Bye.